All right, good morning, everyone. As you've noticed, I am not Dr. Cersei. I am filling in for her today, this morning. So I appreciate your grace and patience with me as I navigate Zoom and take attendance and all the things. But welcome. Thanks for coming this morning. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Santina Plotner. I work at the Ohio Valley Educational Cooperative. We are one of 8 cooperatives in our state, and I'm the director of school-based mental health services. So I do a lot of work with our school counselors in the state. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can look at the slide here, the slide deck. Pull it up real quick. Okay, so So a couple of things before I take attendance this morning. We just ask that you please keep your camera on so that we can connect with one another while meeting virtually. Check your microphone, make sure it's muted. That way we're not privy to conversations that you may not want us hearing. I know we all multitask during meetings, so just make sure you're muted unless you're speaking. Stay engaged. Please join in on the conversation. We have some great speakers today. So please ask your questions. Feel free to unmute to do that. Your voice is valuable to us. Remember that these are recorded and posted online. We have an agenda for today, and on that agenda are things like we're going to have a welcome from Dr. Tucker. We have some information about homeschool and homeless education, and then I'll wrap up the meeting by sharing some changes to the ASCA national model. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing so that I can take attendance, and then I will reshare after that. So let me pull up my attendance. Okay, so first, if you'll just unmute and let me know you're here, Courtney Benningfield from Glasgow Independent.
Here.
Thank you. Alicia Bush from Warren County. Rachel Caswell from Fort Thomas Independent.
Here.
Thank you. Straussy Collins from Jefferson County. Chesley Crane from Simpson County.
Here, good morning.
Good morning. Scott Danner from Union County.
I am here.
Great, thank you. Fatima Fusen from Whitley. Suzanne Gibbs from Corbin Independent. Terry Hall from Boone County.
I'm here.
Thank you. John Hargis from Pulaski County. Mary Lewis from Berea Independent.
Here.
Thank you. Julie Link from Russellville Independent. Jessica Longland from Boone County. Carla McCarty from Paintsville Independent. Carrie McGrath from Clark County. Antonio Melton from Fayette. Heather Moore from Boyd.
Here.
Thank you. Paula Moore from Jefferson. Cordia Pickrell from Jefferson. Garrick Lee from Craft Academy.
Here.
Great, thank you. Minija Reynolds from Jefferson. Mindy Rose from Callaway.
I'm here.
Great, thank you. Carl Shanesogel from Graves. Jelena Wheeler from Russell Independent. Chloe Wilcher from Lincoln County.
I'm here.
Great, thank you. Kristen Williamson from Clark County.
Good morning, I'm here. I'm in Madison County now, so.
Oh, okay. I'll change that. I'll do it right now so I don't forget.
No problem.
All right. Great. All right. Glad you all are here. Now I am going to reshare. Okay, thanks, Carl. I got it. I'll change that too. Going to share my screen. All right. I put the minutes from last meeting in the chat. If you don't mind to take a look at those, and can I have a motion to approve those minutes from the September 25th meeting?
I motion.
Okay, who is that? Heather?
Heather Moore.
Perfect. Thank you. And a second?
Kristen Williamson, second.
Thank you, Kristen. All right, so moving right along. Here's our welcome and inclusion activity. So would you rather school counselor edition? So just put in the chat, would you rather have unlimited coffee or an hour for lunch? Which would you rather? Yeah, hour for lunch. Lunch out, yes. All right, lots of hours for lunch. Let's do our next one. Hour for lunch without any tasks, any other tasks. I agree. Would you rather lead a pep rally or a staff PD? And you have to choose one. Pep rally. There's the staff PD. Okay, we're pretty split on that one. Staff PD. Yeah, I think having done both, I think staff PD. That feels like less pressure to me. Okay, last one. Would you rather have a Friday off or a 1 hour nap time each day? Yep, Friday off. Friday, goodbye. Yes, I agree. Yep, everybody wants Friday off. Okay, let's make it happen. I think that would be great. 1 hour nap, I wouldn't want to get back up, I think. So Fridays off sound good to me. Awesome. Thanks for participating. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Tucker for some words as we get started for our meeting today.
Good morning, everyone. Santina, thank you for being our fearless leader today. Certainly, it is my pleasure this morning to bring you a few greetings. And I did say to Michelle and Dr. Cersei, I would be brief. Brevity is not always my strong suit, but I promise you I'm going to be very brief today. I'm going to keep my comments under 2 minutes. In which many of you who know me, that's probably about 5 minutes, but I will be brief. Again, thank you for all of you for the work that you do each day. It's always a pleasure to bring some comments on behalf of our Commissioner Fletcher, and the Kentucky Department of Education. But my first order of business before I give you 2 minutes of comments is to congratulate, and I ask you all to join me in congratulating one of our speakers today, Zach Stumbo. Zach, are you on the call yet?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to embarrass you just a little bit, Zach, if you don't mind. Anytime we have an opportunity to elevate and really recognize our heroes and sheroes, we should do it. And Zach, I want to thank you for being one of our heroes. For those of you who don't know that Zach was recently named honored by the National Association for the Education of Homeless Children, Youth, That's the NAEHCY, National Association, with the 2025 McKinney-Vento State Coordinator of the Year. And so I want to give Zach a round of applause, not only for bringing that recognition to Kentucky, to the Kentucky Department of Education, but when you look at the graduation rates of homeless children in Kentucky, certainly under Zach's leadership and his influence. Zach, what the rates went from something like, they're currently now what, 87.6%, and what, a year or so ago in 2024 it was 69.3.
Well, no, sorry, we were down to about 80%
Okay.
during COVID, but the national average is 69.3%.
The national average is 69, and right, we're up at 86.4%. So let's give Zach a round of applause, and all the work that you all do, our phenomenal school counselors do. Yes.
Thank you.
Which really gets us to our challenge, is that how do we continue to navigate this constantly evolving educational landscape that we're dealing with? And nevertheless, we're challenged. It is our imperative that we focus on not only meeting the academic needs of our children, we need to meet the whole child, the needs of the whole child. And I think Zach and all of you on this call certainly do this. So this not only encompasses, meeting these academic achievements. This week is our accountability data release day. And so the next couple of days, you'll see how our students, and I'll say our teachers as well, how they performed last school year. So this will be a huge interest of school folk, a huge interest of students, parents, and especially the media. But again, we need to always keep our eyes on the road test, which is fine, but we don't, which is huge. And that road test is about ensuring that we take care of the social and emotional needs of our kids while we're keeping our eyes on the written test. So this will also include us working with businesses. Now, we hear a lot about the work that you all are leading with career and technical education. So we need to work more closely with local businesses, community organizations, and of course our parents and local school boards to create this comprehensive approach that, again, and you'll hear me say it 5 times today, that elevates our whole child, this whole child development, while we're helping them be successful in their careers. But I do know if we do this together, we can be successful. So I want to thank you as I close here for your dedication and commitment to our students, to the whole child. Santina, that's it for me. And I think I was even less than 5 minutes. Is that correct?
You were. Way to go.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for supporting school counselors and being a cheerleader for the work that we do. It's really appreciated. So we appreciate
absolutely.
you.
Absolutely. And I'll be on for the majority of the call. If you all have any questions or feedback for me, I'm always open for it. And then you all have, majority of you have my personal number. I'm yet to get a prank phone call. So I appreciate that, Santina. And then you also know you can reach me via email.
Great. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Dr. Tucker now on the information he just shared? Okay. All right. Well, we're going to move along on our agenda.
All right.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much. First up, we have some information about homeschool. We have David Belanti on the call. He's the Assistant Director for the Office of Continuous Improvement and Support at the Kentucky Department of Education. Hi, David. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. You got my last name correct. So
oh, great.
Congratulations on that.
I always worry having a unique name. Am I going to get unique names correct? So I'm happy to hear that. Would you like me to drive your presentation for you, or do you want me to have you share? I don't mind to stop sharing. What's easiest for you?
I'll just have you drive it and,
okay.
And when to go to the next slide. So
sure.
Just an introduction. Again, my name is David Belanti. I am one of the assistant directors in the Division of School and Program Improvement. In that division, we take care of a lot of the programs. We administer programs under the Every Student Succeeds Act, except for a couple. We do little parts and pieces of other things. One of the things we do is we have a homeschool and non-public school liaison within our division. So that person could not be here today. I'm going to substitute for her today. And what I have prepared for this group is a fairly basic presentation, really kind of focusing on history and background and a couple important points related to homeschool. I will tell you any question that you might have that I don't address here, please feel free to put it in the chat, unmute yourself. I'll address it. If it's something I cannot address, I'll get back with Dr. Searcy and we'll get an answer to you. So with that, we'll go into the first slide. Just to give you a little background on the right and history of homeschooling in Kentucky. Our state constitution in Section 5 allows parents the right to not to have to attend a public school and to essentially choose the educational environment for their child or children that they best see fit. That many times is a homeschool, many times is a private school, like a Christian or Catholic school or another type of private school. In Kentucky, we do consider homeschools to be private schools or non-public schools. Private, non-public, those two terms are used pretty interchangeably in this state. In Kentucky, the requirements around homeschooling are fairly lax. You might find that in other states, such as Ohio, there are more stringent requirements that state legislature has put in place. For example, there may be requirements to participate in state testing, which is not a requirement in Kentucky. So you'll find if you're looking around the nation that state to state requirements vary quite greatly when it comes to requirements. In Kentucky, I don't have these numbers in my slides. We have approximately 25,000 homeschools. That encompasses about 40,000 enrolled students in those homeschools. So that's a pretty significant number. Okay, so we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so as I was saying, requirements around homeschool in this state are fairly lax. The Kentucky Department of Education serves as a liaison and a technical assistance provider, mostly to the homeschool community. We've produced some documents. We get regular phone calls. Provide guidance to those people who are seeking information about requirements within the state. We do not prescribe any type of curriculum or provide any type of support. We generally don't accredit those homeschools either. Now, you'll see there's a homeschool information packet, which is kind of just like a Q&A. But we do accredit, or we don't accredit, but we do certify non-public schools. Generally, your homeschools are not going to go through that process. For a non-public school, for example, that involves them working with a group called the Kentucky Non-Public Schools Commission. So a Catholic school that wants to be Kentucky certified, which means they are following certain standards that a public school would follow. They would go through an accreditation process. They would then be recommended by the commission to the Kentucky Board of Education for certification, and then would from there either be approved or denied. And if approved, they are recognized or have some backing to by the State Board of Education. A homeschool generally does not get that sort of backing. Okay, let's go to the next one. Pulled out here the most pertinent requirements around homeschooling. So you'll see I've linked to several statutes here, everything from the requirement of compulsory attendance, just like any student. If parents are going to operate a homeschool, they have to abide by compulsory attendance. Specifically, 159.030 exempts parents from having to enroll their students in a public school if they're homeschool enrolled. 159.40, so requirements for maintaining attendance and scholarship reports. Homeschools do have to maintain those records. Those records are open to or are subject to inspection by the local DPP. If requested by a district, they could be open to KDE review as well. But generally, the homeschool itself keeps attendance and scholarship records and also issues the diploma. So if a child goes from K to 12 in homeschool, they issue their own diploma as well. We do collect annual enrollment. That is self-reported generally to districts. Districts then submit that to us. But this particular piece is not necessarily about the data. In order to operate a homeschool, there's one requirement. A parent must submit an annual notice to a district that states, hey, my child is going to be enrolled in homeschool. Here's the address. Here's the ages of my children. And that is all a parent has to do in order to enroll and start a homeschool. They are not requesting permission from a district. They are notifying the district that they will either be withdrawing or they will be starting their children from kindergarten in homeschool. And then the last two I have noted here defines the length of the student instructional year, which must be at least 1,062 instructional hours, and generally has to align with the local districts or closely align with the local district's calendar. Okay, we will go to the next one. So like I was saying, I wanted just to give a little deeper dive into that notification and put that out here. So parents, again, have to annually notify the local district. Generally, the superintendent or the DPP is in charge of collecting those. Most typically, the superintendent is going to designate the DPP for to collect those specific notifications. They must notify the district within 10 days of the start of school or within 10 days of withdrawing their child from the public school system. And again, so the notification is just going to contain the names, ages, address of each child enrolled in that homeschool. Now in that packet, we do have a very simple template that parents can use to make that notification. And again, this notification is not a request or not requesting permission, but it is simply a notification so the district will know where those children are enrolled. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So off and on, you're going to, as a counselor, probably encounter a homeschool student that wants to enroll back into the public school system. Typically, what we see with this situation is, maybe the child has gone through homeschool in K-8, and then based on opportunities in 9 through 12, or just the rigor of the curriculum for 9 through 12, want to enroll back into the high school setting in the public district. So according to 704 KR 3307, the district at that point, when a parent and student come in to re-enroll from homeschool, will have one of two options in order to place those children. So option A would be to pass an exam of a similar nature and content to an exam used for other students receiving credit for a particular course. So let's say a child comes in, parent says this child should be in 10th grade English. You're going to test that child for 9th grade English. And, if that person, or if that student passes that 9th grade English course, then they would be appropriately enrolled in 10th grade. The other option is to go ahead and place that student within the 10th grade course and reevaluate their success after a 12-week period. So if that student has a score of C or better, for example, within that 12-week period, they can remain in that 10th grade course. If not, if they are not making the grade, they may have to be pushed back to the 9th grade course. I would suggest to this group to go into your policies and procedures manual to see what it says about placing students who re-enroll from a homeschool. Generally, from what I've read in policy and procedures manuals, they're going to be one or the other, depending on, district choice. So following that particular procedure is going to be critical once you get a student who wants to enroll from a homeschool. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So this is something that's pertinent as well to this group. No pass, no drive does apply to homeschool students as well. Now, I will tell you, we do not provide any guidance on that other than to provide links to certain websites, places where parents can find additional information or forms. But it is important that in order to be licensed, homeschool parents must complete the form and submit that according to requirements. Now, you may get questions on this, and you might get a phone call. Again, in our homeschool packet, that's a great resource for you to have to kind of direct parents in this situation in the right direction for completing those forms and getting more information. So I know this was a very basic background. I'm happy to, entertain any questions there might be, or, if you want to continue this in a future meeting with more specifics, I'm happy to get some things pulled together for this group, but I'll open it up to any questions that you all might have.
I have a question.
Sure.
I was one that actually requested you all because I'm just going to be honest. The past week I've had 10 kids pull out to go to homeschool.
Mhm.
So it's a real issue in my county. And so
Right.
two questions. The
Sure.
attendance for the kids that go homeschool, I know the parents are supposed to keep that. Who like monitors that? Is that our local DPP? Can they go and request that? Is that who monitors it?
So did you say the attendance? I didn't
Yes.
catch
So let's say I put my child on homeschool
that.
and
Mhm.
as the parent are supposed to like keep attendance. Does the
Yeah.
DPP from my local district, can they contact me and say, hey, I need your attendance?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And what happens if I don't give that to them?
They are out of compliance and technically they're probably going to be moving forward with truancy proceedings if there are issues.
Okay. So our DPP is in charge of that.
That is correct.
Okay. And then are they also, so I'm hearing that the DPP is kind of the one that is supposed to take control of all of this.
Correct.
If it is an accredited program that they are on, I mean, is there really anything we can do? Is it only if they're non-accredited?
So as far as accreditation, they are not required to have any sort of accreditation. They are required to teach certain subjects that a public school student would receive in a public school setting, but they are not required to have any kind of accredited program. So they can design. Really, the statute says they have to create a bona fide school. So they have to have something in place where they're actually teaching. They have to keep those records. They do not have to have any sort of degree or accredited program. They, to be quite honest, we have gotten calls that say, do I have to have a high school diploma to homeschool my kid? And the answer is no, you do not. So, so it's very basic in this state. You know, they have to keep those records. They have to teach those subjects, and you know, those records are open to inspection at any time. And we often get, I guess I want to talk a little bit about this. We often get questions from parents. Can a district require us to sign some sort of agreement in order to homeschool? No, all they have to do is really notify the district that they are pulling their kid for enrolling in a homeschool. Can you counsel them about the benefits of public school? Sure, you know, if they volunteer to listen to that, sure. But really, all they are required to do in this state is make notification.
Okay. Then my next question, and I'm sure this is going to be like, you got to go to, you know, your politicians are, how do we get these statutes, laws, KRS, how do we get them to be more rigorous? Because
Yep.
I'm seeing kids that pull out to homeschool. I have one coming to re-enroll and she's done nothing for 2 years.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
now we're responsible for all her KSA scores and all of that. And she's done nothing but sit home for 2 years. And I feel like it's because we don't have things that are rigorous. They can just, oh, I'm going to homeschool and then
Yeah.
see why.
Yeah, I think you were going to say your answer is going to be contact your legislator, and that is exactly what I would tell you. I would, if this is an issue, I would take that up first with district leadership.
Okay.
This is perpetually an issue that is on the table with legislators in our state. There's also heavy pushback from the homeschool community. We have a lot of homeschools in private schools that are doing it right.
Sure.
But we are also aware that there are some that are not. So if that is an issue, you know, it's something to lodge with your district leadership. And I don't want to speak for what your rules are for contacting legislators in your district, me as an employee, if I want to contact them, I can't do that myself. So just be cautious when making that contact. I can, if I have something personal, I have to be off the clock on my own computer. But yes, I know there have been issues raised by superintendents committees as well. But that's something probably to discuss with district leadership.
Okay, awesome. And then can you share like a link to this PowerPoint? Because I saw there was some, clickable links in there. Can you share that with us or put it in the group chat?
Yes, was this presentation shared?
I don't believe it was shared with everyone, but if you're okay with it, I'm happy to put it in the chat.
Yeah, that'd be perfect because as we were going through, I saw the links there, and as long as they're live, that would be a good resource. Anything else I can help answer for you?
I think that's all for me right now. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah,
Those were
again,
great questions, Chloe.
yeah, those were good questions. Now, if you'll go to that last slide. So I did provide somebody else's name and a couple links to some resources. The homeschool page is pretty basic. The most important thing there is that homeschool information packet, which is one of the links. We just actually revised that, so it's pretty user-friendly. It was developed for a very general audience. Again, it's something you can, if you ever get homeschool questions, you can definitely pull that. It's public information and hand that to a parent. You can, use that in district meetings for information. I did provide you a contact. Of course, you can contact me directly, but Amanda is our main contact for homeschool and non-public school questions. She is our liaison for those questions and stays pretty busy with those questions on a regular basis. So her contact is there. You will find her if you go to that homeschool page. She will be the person at the bottom of the page as the main contact. But again, please feel free to reach out to either of us if you ever have any questions.
Great. Any other questions for David? All right, this was great information. I did share the slides, the PDF of the slides in the chat. If it won't open for you, let me know. And then I might have to have David share it because I don't know if I had permission to share or not through Google. We're good. I saw a thumbs up from Chloe. Okay, perfect. Great. Well, thank you, David, for coming. Thanks for that information.
Yeah, thank you all.
Okay. Next, we have our award winner, Dr. Zach Stumbo. So congratulations. He's going to share with us some information about homeless education. He's a program consultant with the Office of Continuous Improvement and Support with KDE. So Zach, would you like me to drive for you or do you want to share?
Is it okay if I share?
Yeah.
And how long would you like for me to present for? I'm sorry I didn't ask before.
That's okay. 3 hours is fine. No, I'm joking. We have until 11:30. There are some tidbits of information that Dr. Searcy wanted me to share about changes to the Ask a National model. I could probably do that in 5 or 10 minutes. So I would say you have a half hour to 40 minutes.
Okay, half hour's fine. I just wanted to make sure.
Sure.
Just a second, and I will pull that up and start presenting. And can you all see that now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, sorry. Okay, like they said, I'm Zach Stumbo, and I oversee homeless education as the state homeless coordinator. I always tell people that this is the most basic slide for people starting out with McKinney-Vento. The big parts of the law are all covered on this one slide. Although as you dig into it, it gets very overwhelming and a lot of minute details. So if you ever have questions, you're welcome to call me at any time or email me. Your district should also have a liaison, and we'll talk about that. But I'm happy to field calls if you ever have them as well. The McKinney-Vento Act has been around since 1987, and it was last reauthorized and updated in 2016. And the main important part about identifying eligible students deals with identifying where they sleep at night, their nighttime residence. And if it's missing one of these 3 areas or more, then they do qualify. So you want to look to see if their nighttime residence is fixed, regular, and adequate. Fixed, we generally say that is stationary or not subject to change. So things that would not be fixed would include tents, RVs, sleeping in cars, things like that. Regular, can they get there consistently and use it consistently? Places that might not qualify as regular would be doubling up with other families who could ask them to leave at any time, or any kind of building that's just could be locked off, things like that that they couldn't get to. Adequate doesn't meet their physical and psychological needs typical in a home. And things we would not consider as adequate would include sleeping outdoors, sleeping in outbuildings, sheds. We see a lot of that in rural areas, unfortunately. That also includes homes or dwellings that they may have that are substandard. And I have more information about that on a later slide. The other key features of the law are that every state has a state homeless coordinator, and that's me. It's what I do full time. And every district has to have a local liaison, a local homeless liaison. In most of our districts, they do more than one thing. In over half the districts, they're also the DPP. If you don't know who your local liaison is today, I would ask that you look and find out who that person is very soon. The other hallmarks of the law include that the student has to be immediately enrolled, even if you have questions about eligibility and whether or not it's the correct district. If they're coming to you to enroll as homeless, you are supposed to immediately enroll them and then follow up on the back end for the details. And the last part, barriers to attendance must be removed. So just looking again at that definition of fixed, regular, and adequate, if you ever have a question of whether a student is eligible, the most important thing is where they spend their nights, or typically spend their nights. We also have within the law another definition that is unaccompanied homeless youth. I'm a former unaccompanied homeless youth. When I turned 18 my junior year, and a week after I turned 18, my mom had a lot of addiction and mental health issues. And so she kicked me out and asked me to leave. And I couch surfed for the rest of my junior and most of my senior year until I was able to stabilize a place for myself, and then later transition to college. The unaccompanied homeless youth are particularly important to counselors because the law says that they have to be offered one-on-one counseling for FAFSA. Now, all homeless students should get some kind of college or career transition, but unaccompanied homeless youth are supposed to be offered one-on-one help with that. So that's typically something liaisons coordinate with counselors to do. They also are to be given at the end of high school, they're to be given a letter, a verification letter. There's no official form, but if you need some help, I can point you out to some different resources that have sample letters you can use. And you want to verify their status as unaccompanied homeless youth, because when they fill out their FAFSA, if they're unaccompanied, then they don't need to have their parents' tax information to file for FAFSA. And they are supposed to hold on to that letter. We encourage the district to also hold on to it for a few years. And sometimes when they go on to college or some kind of post-secondary training, they will ask for verification of their former status at that time. The law allows for the liaison to do this, or anyone that the liaison designates to help write the letter locally. So examples of where students might be. Students facing economic hardship, we often find them sharing a house or doubling up. And that gets to be kind of complicated when families tell you that they've been living with grandma or a family friend for multiple years. And we offer separate trainings on ways to tease that out to see if they really live, if it's really something that still is homeless, or if this is something they've now chosen to do perpetually. Also, you might find, most of our students are doubled up. In districts, it usually ranges about 2/3 to 3/4. If they're lacking adequate accommodations, a lot of families will be in hotels or motels, sometimes Airbnb. Campgrounds and trailer parks are also a place, RV parks. Now, I want to caution that it's not every trailer and it's not every trailer park. Typically, we're talking about very substandard, dilapidated trailers. Those would qualify. RVs generally would qualify unless they're a family who, consciously sold everything to travel around in an RV, but most of those families do homeschool. And to follow up with what David was presenting, McKinney-Vento funds and Title I homeless set-aside funds and homeless protections, they do not extend to homeschool students, just like we don't offer services to private school in Kentucky. Other examples that you might see are students in emergency or transitional shelters. They all would qualify. Sometimes we have students who are abandoned in hospitals. And then in the last couple of years, I've had students abandoned when they've been released from juvenile justice. And that's another place that we're starting to see students. Let me go back. I'm fine if you want to send out this presentation to the group as well. There are flow charts for McKinney-Vento eligibility, and they're very good resources. That's what I use when I work with people to help them decide if a case is McKinney-Vento or not. So we do have some good news about enrollment in Kentucky. It has overall gone up in the last few years. We were down around during the COVID year, we were around 18,000. It had dipped from the previous year, which is no longer on the chart. But it started to come up. And I was hired about midway through the plateau. And a colleague of mine, Jennifer White, she sometimes presents with me. She works with Homeless Halftime. We've put all of our effort into identification and making sure that we find every student who is eligible. We think that's really important. In 23-24, we hit a high, and that has tapered off a little bit this year. Sometimes you'll see those fluctuations with different natural disasters and things like that. We had a couple of storms and things that went through, and by the end of the next year, when they're permanently housed again, those students do drop off. So I believe that's the biggest reason why it's come down a little bit. Other reasons could be the end of ARP-HCY funding. So we'll really need to watch that for the next couple of years to see where the trajectory is headed. Whenever you work with your local liaison, one of the most important things that you could work with them on is providing educational advising and partial credit acceptance. And I'm going to talk about that on the next few slides. School counselors are invaluable with those two things. Homeless students tend to have a lot of challenges in reaching graduation in time. I was just working with a liaison the other day who had a student who was 18 and I think only had a couple of credits, maybe 2 credits, a lot of trouble. We see homeless students have a lot of transfers, inconsistent attendance. We know that McKinney-Vento students are the largest subgroup of our chronically absent students in the state. They may not have educational records or have lost them or not kept up with them over the years. They could have been out of school for a long part of time and not formally entered homeschooling. Sometimes they lack the support and advocacy from caregivers at home. And of course, our unaccompanied homeless youth, they're physically separated from their parent, whether they've been kicked out or they had to leave because of the dangers in the home. They specifically need a lot of help and guidance. The students also suffer with anxiety, trauma, and other mental and physical health challenges that are typically associated with homelessness. As I stated just a few minutes ago, ensuring that homeless students receive partial credits, it's one of the most important things that counselors can do. The McKinney-Vento Act requires that all districts have a policy for partial credits, partial credit completion for homeless students. If your district has recently been monitored through Consolidated or McKinney-Vento monitoring, you probably have a really good policy. We've really been focusing on that the last few years. If you're not sure that you have a policy, I would urge you to get with your liaison and look into it, because that is something that we do look for in monitoring. I'm happy to help you get started and meet with you and read through some of the policies. I can't give you examples of districts because they really are supposed to be unique to each district, to highlight the services that you all have. But I can tell you that we have found that the KSBA draft or their policy alone, it is not enough for the only policy. It has to be fledged out, fully fledged out. There are some parts inside of the state KAR that it doesn't really seem to get at. So if you have any questions, send me an email, give me a call, and we can start to look at that. And I could give you some ideas about whether or not I think it meets what we would be looking for. But having that policy, it prevents penalizing the students for transferring or other challenges with homelessness. When we say reducing barriers, this is one of the best ways that counselors can reduce barriers to education for students. It prevents the students from having to repeat coursework, creates room in their schedules to take classes that they need for graduation and that they're interested in, that they're engaged in. And having this policy is one of the best things we can do to increase and keep our high school graduation rates high. Last year, we were at 87.4%. The top state was at 91.4%. So we're not that far away. We're very close to the top of the heap. And we want to keep that trajectory in that direction. These are the specific requirements inside of the McKinney-Vento Act that discuss the partial credit. So this first one, liaisons must also ensure that homeless students receive appropriate credit for full or partial coursework satisfactorily completed while attending a prior school. So counselors might assist in reviewing the student's prior records as part of a partial credit policy. This next part talks about calculating, awarding, and receiving partial credits, and making any necessary adjustments to the student's schedule to permit them to complete the coursework. As far as that goes, counselors might document communication with other districts or changes made to a student's record as part of a partial policy review. That would be a good example of documentation to have for Consolidated monitoring or for McKinney-Vento monitoring. Liaisons must make particular efforts to ensure that these procedures are implemented for unaccompanied youth. And counselors might assist by documenting training from their local liaison or documenting their partial credit policy reviews, work they've done with unaccompanied students, of course, removing any PII for the student, but those would all be great ways to show how your district does this work. In Kentucky, we do have 704 KAR 7:090, and that requires, in addition to what the McKinney-Vento asked for, it requires districts to adopt written procedures for partial credit, provide opportunities for credit accrual that eliminate academic and non-academic barriers, and they provide access to extracurricular summer programs, credit transfer, electronic courses, and after-school tutoring or other ESS in the district. Additional things that you might do to help with that credit accrual include identifying students eligible, right? So that's why I'm so passionate about identifying every McKinney-Vento student that is eligible, because you can't ensure that they're going to get the extra help if they haven't been identified. Referring students to mental health services, conducting home visits, credit completion, referral to community resources. College visits are a great option. And these are all things that your district could spend their Title I homeless set aside on, or any McKinney-Vento subgrant money if you all have that. I will say that college visits, if you want to do that, reach out to me to get that pre-approved, those costs if you're going to use those. Typically, we require schools visit Kentucky colleges and universities rather than doing any overnight visits out of state. Financial assistance for college entrance exams are allowable. And of course, working with that local homeless liaison, knowing that person is very important to making sure that the partial credit policy is really working in your district. I have some new information that I've been sharing since June, when I had my annual state coordinator training in DC, and that deals with career and technical education. I think this information is very exciting, and what I'm going to show you is nationally reviewed data. I'm working on figuring out how to get the state level data, and this is one of the areas that I really want to focus on going into 2026. And that is connecting our homeless students with CTE opportunities. In order to understand the data I'm going to show you, I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. This talks about students with a CTE concentrator. And to my knowledge, that is a student who has completed at least 2 courses in a specific pathway, and they've named that pathway. CTE courses and concentrators have traditionally been associated with high school students, but some of our Kentucky districts have opened CTE up to 8th grade students under Perkins 5 money. I want to urge you, as you think about the data I'm about to show you, how your district shares this information between what CTE offerings you have and those students who are homeless and that liaison. Think about how you could collaborate and refer these students. In Kentucky, typically about 20 to 23% of our homeless students who are in high school are in some kind of concentrator. So that's like a fifth of all the homeless students that we could have paired up with CTE concentrators. So there's a lot of room for growth. This graph is the exciting data that I really wanted to show you. And there's 3 different bars. The green talks about nationally all students with CTE concentrators. The orange talks about all homeless students with CTE concentrators. And the blue talks about homeless students nationally without the concentrators, right? So when we look at these first 4 things, which I think are the most impressive, when we look here at the difference between the homeless students without and the homeless students with concentrators, there's a huge growth in the 4-year graduation rate. In academic proficiency for ELA, huge growth. Math proficiency, the largest growth. And science, again, another huge growth area by matching these students up. When you run the numbers, it tells us that nationally, homeless students with CTE concentrators are 40.6% more likely to graduate, 59.26% more likely to reach ELA proficiency, 166% more likely to reach math proficiency, and 108% more likely to reach science proficiency. Now, I asked them if they had any data about chronic absenteeism and CTE concentrators. They don't at a national level. I'm looking into that at a state level, but intuitively, I think if the students are doing better, if they're more engaged and they're graduating more like with the CTE concentrator, then I would assume their attendance has improved. So I think this is a really low cost, low effort way that districts could really help students make some changes. It's really important because the number 1 predictor of adult homelessness is not getting a high school diploma. And with that, we'll talk about our post-secondary transitions. This is the old form for the graduation rate. I'd put the newer one at the beginning, and you can see we've been on an upward trajectory for a while. And oh, that's our graduation rate. Sorry, it's not our identification. Sorry, they look very similar. So let me go back over that. Before COVID, and I don't have the new numbers. I've been looking everywhere for them, and I'll find out, I guess, when everybody else does. That we were at about 84% before. I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with that. Let me go back to that screen. Before COVID, we dropped down to 80% during COVID, and then we've come up until we were at 87.4% last year. I would love to see us continuing to move on toward 90% to be in that top tier. As a student who graduated while unaccompanied homeless youth, I can tell you it's so important to set them up for that transition. We want to ensure that our unaccompanied youth are assisted with FAFSA. Like I told you earlier, they are required to be offered. They don't have to participate in it, but they should be offered one-on-one FAFSA counseling. Local liaisons are one of the officials allowed to verify their unaccompanied status in the letter. School counselor or other personnel may, if the homeless liaison designates that ability to them. And that comes from a Dear Colleague letter that came out in 2023. There are some templates for verifying it. Like I said before, the National Center for Homeless Education has one. Most people seem to like Schoolhouse Connections. That's an outside vendor, so I can't guarantee or, say this is the one to use, but I've read it and it looks to be complete. So that would be a good one if you like that one as well. Also, you're welcome to create your own for your district. If you want to look at the examples and create your own template, you're also welcome to do that. All homeless youth, not just unaccompanied, all should receive information and counseling, individualized counseling for college readiness, college selection, applying for school, financial aid, and on-campus supports. These students, typical homeless students, do not receive that verification letter. That's only for your unaccompanied homeless youth, so that's a much smaller population within your McKinney-Vento students. The role of FAFSA in supporting homeless students, that FAFSA is required for most financial aid, and I'm sure you're all aware of that. It's also required for their scholarships, grants, work studies, and loans. The unaccompanied homeless youth, again, must be offered assistance with the FAFSA. Liaisons are also allowed to provide subsequent year verifications. What that means is if a student comes back and they say, the university, they did this when I was a freshman, but they're asking again when I'm a junior. The district is allowed to go back if the student comes years later and asks for verification again. They're allowed to provide that, provided that there's a record of them having been unaccompanied homeless youth when they were in school. The benefits for this: it reduces barriers for our financial aid opportunities. It increases access to grants, loans, work-study programs. Especially for the unaccompanied homeless youth, it typically does increase the amount of money that they're allowed to receive. But I will tell you from experience that increase in money is almost always in loans, and those loans will come due. So make sure you have that talk with them as well if you have an opportunity. Again, the unaccompanied youth do not need their parents' financial information to complete FAFSA. They will need that financial assistance for help with tuition, fees, books, transportation. Of course, the allowability is set by different colleges and the amounts are set by that. One important thing to remember is that we can no longer use homeless funding or McKinney-Vento funding after a student has graduated. So it's important to set them up for success before. When I say that we can't provide help for after graduation, that also includes we can't spend money on preparing things for dorms and stuff. Districts would have to find some kind of donation or family resource program to help with that. In under the past few years, there has been the FAFSA Simplification Act. Most of that has now been completed, and we're really waiting to see how that's going to work out. One of the best things that we hear is that the homeless questions were reduced from 3 questions to 1. The unaccompanied youth are supposed to have their independent status carried forward from now on. And again, as I said, more eligible authorities can verify that if the liaison designates that process to them. And with that, I am available for any discussion. My email is here. I'm happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
I have a question. I can get us started.
Sure,
with
sure.
questions. So I know from an elementary school perspective, we know a student is experiencing homelessness, and a lot of times they're transient. We'll start a school year. They don't come the first day. They don't come the first week. We've kind of lost track of them. Are there any suggestions that you have in order to try to track down these students that are homeless, that don't show up when we thought they were going to, and how to make sure they're getting support that they need?
So I will, first and foremost, I will tell people I have never been a local homeless liaison. I would refer people to some of our we have some not to say that every liaison isn't a star, but we have some people who really have some tight processes, especially in Northern Kentucky. That group meets, the liaisons there, 9 or 10 of them meet every month to discuss problems. I know that I could set people up with people in that area. They have a lot of great information. Also, Tiffany Reynolds in Bullock County is doing some amazing things. Heather Anderson in the Paducah area always has some amazing things that are going on. So I'm happy to individually refer someone to someone in their area. I think going and watching their process or talking to them about it is one of the best ways they can do it. But I think probably home visits are one of the best ways. Keeping in contact with any community members, their housing authority people in your area, they can often give you some information about that. I often think that if a district thinks they're missing homeless students in identification, it's usually in one of 2 areas. The first one is in Doubled Up. And it could be that they just aren't sure about, like, when does it count? When does living with grandma count? And when does it not count? That's a time where it's really good to call and reach out to me with a specific case, and we can work through it. And I find that when I work one-on-one with people about specific questions, they become much better at identifying those things. Basically, Doubled Up counts as long as it's not supposed to be some permanent arrangement. It can last for days to years, but you also want to make sure that if they're living with grandma or somebody, that no state agency is involved. So if CPS is involved or a safety plan or anything like that, they're not McKinney-Vento at that point. The other big area where I think that potentially districts miss people is in substandard housing. And so that's anything that has like infestations, it's missing a kitchen, holes in the floor, holes in the roof, broken windows. Generally, it's just unsafe or very overcrowded. Those are the 2 categories where I feel like we've really picked up a lot of students in our identification efforts.
Great, thank you. That's very helpful.
Yeah.
What other questions do we have? Okay.
And
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
one thing I would say about the unaccompanied that I forgot to mention, it it's not only high school age students, right? It typically is high school age, but recently dealt with an issue in Western Kentucky where two elementary school age students, their mother was deceased and their father was not a legal citizen, and he was taken in by federal immigration forces, and those two students were American citizens, and suddenly they were living with a family friend. So it can be very young. What I tell people is, if they're very young, those are ones that I would typically refer on to CPS. If they're high school age and they seem to be settled, living with a family friend, a trusted adult, somebody who's really guiding them, that typically we don't automatically refer those to CPS. I'm always happy to talk those case by case issues out with schools or districts, and anyone's welcome to call me. I take questions from liaisons, counselors, school people all day long. But thank you for letting me present. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you. Congrats again on your award. You're doing great things. Thank you for sharing your story with us about the connection you have to your work, being a homeless youth yourself. So just thanks for the work you're doing.
Of course. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to drop our next thing if you guys will hang with me. I know we've gone over a lot today. I'm going to put in, hopefully this works, in the chat. That's a long URL of the document that I'm going to go over that are the changes in the ASCA national model. I'm also going to put in the chat the link on the ASCA website that has information about the 5th edition. You can download the 5th edition for free. If you're like me and you want a paper copy, you have to pay for it. So you'd have to order that. But on the ASCA website, you can download it for free. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen here.
That first link that you put in just
Did it
now,
not work?
it just says Google. That's an error.
Okay.
I don't know if it's working for anyone else, but it didn't.
Probably not, because it seemed really lengthy. Try to share. Okay, so if you go to the second link I shared, the ASCA National Model link from ASCA, over to the right, there are downloads, and you can download the changes in the 5th edition. That might be easier for you all. So I'll share my screen. I can show you that on the ASCA website. Yeah, so if you look at the website here, this is ASCA's website. That's that second link I shared with you. Over to the right, you can download the National Model 5th edition. You can download the changes in the 5th edition as well, which is the tab I'm going to go over. Now, I'm just going to hit the highlights because I will get us out of here on time. That overall, I feel like the changes in the ASCA national model are positive. They consolidated some things, or some things that didn't really feel like they fit in certain categories, they've moved. So the core framework of the ASCA national model has stayed the same, where they have define, deliver, assess, and manage. That stayed the same, but there's tighter alignment around these phases. And also, ASCA has a phased implementation plan for the 5th edition, which is really helpful. So it kind of goes through step by step of what to do and when and how long it should take if we're, really following the ASCA national model and we want to achieve RAMP for our school. So I'm just going to scroll through this. Hope I don't make anybody sick doing that. But here on the second page under define, the major changes here is that the beliefs were moved from the define section to the manage section. So that was a major change. And another major change is now we do not come up with a separate mission and vision statement for the school counseling program. For our program, it is now aligned to the school and district mission and vision, which makes so much sense, I think, because we don't want to operate in a silo. So having a separate mission and vision for our program that might read different from the school and district no longer makes sense. So they have noted that school counselors should articulate how the school counseling program aligns with the school district vision and mission. So it's no longer separate. So that's a good thing. Under deliver, they are really hitting hard alignment with MTSS. So school counselors, we know we should really be involved in the MTSS system at our schools and in our districts. Being a part of that school MTSS team, we're invaluable to that effort because we can speak about the kids. We know them really well. Especially we're providing interventions for our tier 2, tier 3 kiddos. We're doing tier 1 through classroom counseling lessons. So the major changes in deliver is that there's strong MTSS alignment. So school counselors, they recognize their tier support providers. We work across system level interventions, and we're not just doing one-to-one counseling or small group counseling. We're not doing drive-by guidance, that we have a solid curriculum and schedule in place to provide those supports. So for direct student services and indirect, there's no change. It's just closely aligned with MTSS, and that's highlighted in the 5th edition. Again, I already talked about this. There's no separate mission or vision statement anymore. So we already talked about that. And then down here, the use of data, this is a big one here that they added 3 broad results that you get from the school counseling programs. So they should have access. So that's who we're serving and how equitable the services are that are being distributed. And then life readiness, of course, mindsets, behavior, and skills for life success. We're getting them ready for life. And then academic success, that's our achievement data. So there was some confusion about what's considered an outcome in previous editions of the Ask a National model. So this model fully defines out that achievement data it includes but isn't limited to attendance, of course, discipline rates, systemic barriers, student perspectives, and education partner perspectives. So it includes those five components there. So that's a big change there to that section, the use of data. On the next page, they have the school counseling data priorities here that it used to identify school and district state achievement goals and priorities, achievement data points, and data priorities that our actual school counseling program will address. There's some supplemental data here, so it's been renamed to make it clearer. So those 5 things that I just talked about are better defined in the 5th edition, you know, their importance is outlined there. The annual student outcome goal and the closing the gap goal have been combined into one single goal, and it's the achievement gap plan and data report. So that might be a big change for all of us. I know my school counselor team that I've hired through OVEC, we still are using the language annual student outcome goal when we're measuring a goal and tracking that for the year for students, but now it's all wrapped up into a gap plan goal. They have information here on lesson plans and data reports. So in the 5th edition, we no longer have to collect the achievement data. A single lesson is not likely to have a significant impact on achievement data. So the achievement data is collected overall for our program, but not individually for each lesson plan. And then here for small group plan and data report, there is a space for attendance and discipline data when appropriate on that. So did they come to group? Are the disciplinary infractions improving after the group concludes, and keeping track of that data? So that's on that one. All right, managed continued. It's a lot. So here, we already kind of talked about the Closing the Gap action plan and results report. So it monitors these 3 types of data there, and that the contributing factors, the attendance and discipline are measured when appropriate for that plan. So there's just a language change here for those of you that do the annual administrative conference. It is now changed to the annual administrator conference. So the student standards delivery plan and the achievement gap plan are included in the discussion, and it's signed by the administrator when you meet. So it's it's a form. There were some changes to the use of time 5-day calculator for those of you all that use that. So all direct services are combined into one column and indirects combined into one column. So it makes it a little simpler to use. Check boxes were inserted instead of requiring an X on that form, which isn't a big deal. And then the classroom and group mindsets and behavior action plans there. So there were a few changes here, as you can see. So it talks about tiers 1 and 2. They changed it to check boxes. There's drop-down boxes for behavior standards by category. So they're trying to streamline it to make it a little easier to use. There's updated language in the advisory council forms. They've divided it up into first semester, second semester, which is nice. That way you have that for the 2 meetings that you do every year. And then the last page here, there's just some language changes. So they're aligning the language. And they've updated these 3 forms, these 3 assessments with language from the 5th edition. So that's a lot of information in a short amount of time. Might take you a few to process that. But what questions are top of mind for you about that? And if I can't answer them, I'll defer to Dr. Searcy and we'll get you an answer. Any questions or comments regarding the 5th edition changes? Okay, those 2 links there are what I gave you in the chat. They're on the ASCA website. Okay, so our next meeting is February the 11th. So we won't see each other again until after the new year. So thank you guys for the work that you do. I know your lives are busy. Thank you for making time and space to come to this meeting. I'll stick around if there are any other questions or anything that you need. But please reach out if I can be of any help to you. And of course, continue to reach out to Dr. Searcy as well. And I wish you all well into the new year.